On May 11, 2022, the world awoke to devastating news. Shireen Abu Akleh, a veteran Al Jazeera journalist renowned for her fearless reporting, was killed in the West Bank. Her death sent shockwaves through newsrooms and communities across the globe, as people struggled to comprehend the loss of such a prominent voice. For millions, Shireen was more than just a reporter. She was the trusted voice who made sense of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for over 2 decades. Her calm presence and unwavering commitment to truth brought clarity to one of the world's most complex and enduring struggles. The facts were stark. Shireen, wearing a clearly marked press vest and helmet, was shot dead while covering an Israeli military raid in Jenin. She was doing what she had always done, bringing stories from the front lines to the world, even in the face of danger. Eyewitnesses, including fellow journalists who were with her, described targeted fire from Israeli forces. Their accounts painted a harrowing picture of the moments leading up to her death, raising urgent questions about the safety of journalists in conflict zones. Israel initially blamed Palestinian gunmen for the shooting, but mounting evidence and independent investigations quickly contradicted that claim, fueling international outrage and demands for accountability. Shireen was also an American citizen, making her death a direct challenge to the U.S. government and raising the stakes for diplomatic relations between the U.S., Israel, and Palestine. Advocacy groups and members of Congress demanded a transparent, independent investigation, insisting that justice for Shireen was not just a regional issue, but a global one. The Biden administration's response was cautious, calling for an investigation but carefully avoiding direct blame, as officials weighed the political sensitivities involved. Many saw this as inadequate, fearing any internal probe would be biased and fail to deliver real accountability. The sense of frustration grew as days passed without clear answers. The world watched closely to see if the U.S. would truly stand up for press freedom and demand accountability, or if political interests would overshadow the pursuit of justice. This mounting pressure led to a quiet but crucial U.S. review of the evidence, as officials sifted through reports, testimonies, and forensic findings behind closed doors. That review, once hidden from public view, would soon be thrust into the spotlight by an unexpected whistleblower, setting the stage for a new chapter in the fight for truth and justice. Enter Steve Gabovix, a retired U.S. Army colonel whose decades of service had earned him a reputation for integrity and discipline. After his retirement, Gabovix took on a new challenge as the senior military advisor for the U.S. security coordinator in Israel and the Palestinian territories, a role that demanded both expertise and impartiality. Gabovix was no activist. He was a career soldier, trained to follow the evidence wherever it led, and tasked with reviewing the facts and delivering an objective assessment, no matter how uncomfortable the truth might be. His team had rare, almost unprecedented access to both Israeli and Palestinian investigation files, giving them a comprehensive, if often conflicting, set of data to analyze. For weeks, Gabovix and his team pored over forensic reports, audio analysis, and timelines, determined to follow the facts wherever they led, even as political pressure mounted around them. The stakes were enormous. Bombing implicating the Israeli military and the killing of an American citizen could have explosive consequences, potentially straining international alliances and igniting diplomatic crises. But Gabovix's duty was to the truth, not politics. He knew that his responsibility was to uphold the values he had sworn to protect, even if it meant standing alone. His team's findings were clear and damning, pointing directly to the source of the fatal shot, leaving little room for doubt or ambiguity. When the U.S. government released its public statement, Gabovix was stunned to see his team's conclusions distorted and softened, the truth diluted for the sake of political expediency. The gap between the truth he uncovered and the official narrative compelled him to step forward, risking his career and reputation in the process. He became a whistleblower, determined to expose what really happened, believing that the American people and the world deserved to know the facts. For Gabovix, the evidence, not politics, had to prevail, no matter the personal or professional cost. His decision would challenge the highest levels of U.S. diplomacy, setting off a chain reaction that would reverberate far beyond the investigation itself. To understand the controversy, we return to that morning in Jenin. Shireen and her colleagues, all clearly marked as press, positioned themselves in full view of Israeli forces. There was no crossfire, no nearby militants. The first shots were deliberate, not random. Ali al-Samoudi, another journalist, was wounded. Then Shireen was fatally shot in a small exposed area below her helmet. Forensic evidence confirmed the bullet matched Israeli military rifles, though it was too damaged for a definitive match. Israel initially deflected blame, releasing misleading videos and insisting the shooting was accidental. Investigations by journalists and human rights groups quickly debunked these claims. The Palestinian Authority, distrusting Israel, conducted its own analysis and concluded Shireen was intentionally targeted. The deadlock made an independent U.S. review essential. Gabovicz's team was called in to provide a clear-eyed assessment. Gabovic and his team's review was unequivocal. The fatal shot came from an Israeli soldier, with no evidence of militants nearby. The shooting was not a mistake in a firefight. It was deliberate, aimed at clearly identified journalists. The Israeli investigation was found lacking in accountability. Yet, when the U.S. State Department released its statement, it softened the findings, calling the killing unintentional. This single word changed everything, exonerating the IDF and framing the killing as a tragic accident. Gabovic publicly objected, clarifying that unintentional was never in his report. The USSC found no evidence of intent, but absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The State Department's statement was a political judgment, not a factual one. The truth Gabovic uncovered was replaced by diplomatic damage control. Two realities emerged: the investigators' findings and the official U.S. narrative. The unintentional label was no accident, it was a calculated political choice. A finding of intentional killing could have triggered U.S. laws restricting military aid to Israel and caused a diplomatic crisis. Internal debates raged within the Biden administration, but preserving the U.S.-Israel alliance took precedence. The timing was critical, with a presidential visit to Israel looming. The word unintentional allowed the U.S. to acknowledge the IDF's role while shielding a key ally from consequences. This approach prioritized diplomacy over accountability for an American citizen's death. The message, even a prominent Palestinian-American journalist's life, was not worth risking the alliance. The official narrative served a geopolitical agenda, leaving Shireen's family and colleagues with a profound sense of injustice. The case became a study in how national security interests override human rights and press freedom. Shireen's killing was not an isolated incident. It fit a pattern of violence against journalists, especially Palestinians, covering the conflict. Decades of harassment, injury, and death have gone largely unpunished. American citizens like Rachel Corrie and Omar Assad have also died at the hands of Israeli forces, with little accountability. The U.S. response is predictable concern, calls for investigation, and ultimately deference to Israeli findings. This cycle creates a dangerous environment for journalists, signaling that even U.S. citizens can be killed with impunity. For Palestinian journalists, the risks are even greater. Shireen's case was a test for the U.S., one it failed, reinforcing the perception that some lives matter less. The decision to downplay the findings was a blow to press freedom. Shireen's death is a symptom of the broader reality of occupation and conflict in the West Bank. Palestinians live under constant military presence. Israeli soldiers operate in a climate of impunity. The Israeli military justice system rarely prosecutes offenses against Palestinians. Investigations are often delayed or closed, even with clear evidence. The escalation of violence since October 2023 has only magnified these issues. The U.S. response mirrors its stance on Shireen public concern, but unwavering support for Israel. As Israel's primary patron, the U.S. has leverage but chooses not to use it for accountability. This damages U.S. credibility as a champion of human rights. Even when an American is killed, strategic interests take precedence over justice. Shireen's case echoes the fates of other Americans killed or injured in the Palestinian territories. Rachel Corrie's 2003 death set a precedent: U.S. regret, Israeli investigation, no accountability. The Corrie family's attempts at justice were dismissed, showing that political convenience trumps citizens' rights. Omar Assad's 2022 death followed the same script: outrage, internal review, minor discipline, no criminal charges. The U.S. expressed concern, then moved on. Other cases like Furkan Dohan's reveal a systemic issue. The value of an American passport diminishes when the perpetrator is a strategic ally. The U.S. playbook is clear: concern, deference, acceptance of inadequate outcomes. Gabovic's whistleblowing exposed the deliberate political calculations behind this pattern. Even world-renowned journalists are not immune. The cycle of impunity continues, protected by politics. Despite the official narrative, the call for justice for Shireen Abu Akleh endures, echoing through streets, vigils, and international forums. Her family, colleagues, and global advocates continue to demand an independent, transparent investigation, one free from political interference and bias. For them, justice means holding not just the shooter, but the entire chain of command accountable, ensuring that those who gave the orders are also brought to light. Gabovics insists the U.S. must retract its misleading statement and release the full USSC findings, so the truth is not hidden behind redacted pages. He calls for an FBI investigation, as is standard when Americans are killed abroad, emphasizing that no exception should be made in this case. Real accountability would require the U.S. to leverage its aid to Israel, enforcing laws like the Leahy Law, which prohibits assistance to foreign security forces implicated in human rights abuses. This would shift the dynamic from impunity to consequence, pressuring Israel to reform its practices and uphold international standards. Shireen's case is now a litmus test for U.S. values, press freedom, rule of law, and the protection of its citizens, both at home and abroad. The failure to secure justice has stained U.S. credibility, especially in the Middle East, where many watch to see if American principles will be upheld. Gabovics's call is for a future where truth and accountability are not sacrificed for diplomacy, and where justice is not delayed or denied. The world is still waiting for that future, hoping that justice will finally prevail.